Welcome to Incremental Progress, a show dedicated to business owners and entrepreneurs who want to find their story, acquire new leads, and scale their business. My name is Alexander. I'm the president of Measurable Genius. We're a Calgary-based marketing, IT services, and strategic consulting agency. We help business owners in many different industries and across many different sizes solve many different problems in their business that keeps them from essentially living the life they want to live and building the business they want to build. Today's topic is effective delegation, what it means to delegate effectively as a business leader. Delegation is all about effective accountability and responsibility. It's all about knowing what people are likely to get done and what they're not likely to get done. It's about knowing who has what skill sets and who can manage and who can't. It has to do with understanding the strengths and the workload of your team. It has to do with understanding deadlines and how long stuff's gonna take. And it can be very, very simple, but also very, very complicated. You guys are watching this, you're probably a business owner, entrepreneur. Here's some of the challenges that we have faced with our clients. We've seen our clients facing, we see business owners and prospects in the market face these challenges. Maybe you're facing some of these challenges. Maybe you feel like you're too busy running your business or working in your business to work on it, to create systems and to put in the legwork necessary to properly delegate, so maybe you don't delegate at all. Maybe it's like, oh my God, in order to delegate this, I'm going to have to do X, Y, Z additional labor and I'm too busy, and so it never gets delegated, and it's sort of like the worst of two evils. Maybe you have challenges with delegation because you're not clear on the difference between accountability and responsibility and how to assign tasks to team members or certain roles in your organization and allow that person to demonstrate leadership and make mistakes, but also make sure what you've delegated gets done. You know, it's really hard because as a business owner, you don't want your company to make mistakes. You want your company to deliver the highest quality service possible, but it's a paradox because if you want to assign tasks and not rob people of their accountability, you have to create room for them to make mistakes, right? There's a gap. How do you allow your employees to make mistakes without those becoming mistakes that the company represents to the customer? Maybe you have difficulties navigating that minefield. You become afraid to delegate because every time you do delegate, those accountabilities seem to just come back like a boomerang. You throw out a task and the task comes back almost done. You throw out a task and the task comes back like it can't move forward without you providing some critical input, and you might as well have done it yourself anyway. Or you throw out a task and then realize nobody did it and now it's just not happened, right? Like there's a variety of things that happen that desensitize people to even taking the risk of delegation because you're like, oh my God, is it gonna get done? And if it doesn't get done, again, a customer might be mad. Or maybe you just straight up don't have enough time, or you don't have a skill set, or you haven't made a practice around demarcating and turning work and delegatable tasks into actual, tangible, actionable items. If you can't describe what you're delegating in a clear subject line that refers only to one thing, it's gonna be a challenge to delegate. I meet with clients all the time who can't help but to conflate things together. Let's say you hop on a call with a prospect and you want to win a deal. Let's say you've delivered a proposal and the next thing you want from that prospect is to win a deal. I don't know why so many people find this challenging, but how I would approach this is maybe I've got a list of 7 things I want to do for this customer. I will take the highest priority, most important thing that I think should happen next to that customer, and I will only communicate within the scope of that one thing that I want to have happen until that one thing happens, and I won't move on. And for some people that's frustrating, but what you'll find is we actually get stuff done. Because the alternative is this: you hop on that phone call and you talk about all 7 things and you get all 7 nowhere. We as a species have this nature to dive into drama. If you're talking about 2 things at once, drama. One thing at once, no drama. Just one thing, data. Many things, drama. Let's pretend your brain is a computer, which it's not, but kinda, and it only has so much RAM. RAM allows you to multitask because RAM stores the operating information for your running applications. Let's say your brain has RAM in it and it can only keep so many things in the operating runtime. Here's something that happens for human beings. You get into the shower and some of your RAM empties. Or you walk through a door and your RAM empties and you're like, whoa, what was I just doing? Okay, that's the human condition. You can't store everything in memory. So the more things you try to keep going at once, the more complicated you make a delegation, the more things you talk to any one person about at any given time, the more challenge you're gonna have delegating. Now, here's the root of that. Let's dive into that because one of the things that we're obsessed with at Measurable Genius is prioritization. Is it stressful really to choose to do one thing, set up your life so that you have the space and the room in your calendar and, let's say, an agreed upon scope to do one thing in an amount of time that is accurate for what it's going to take to do that one thing, and there's no other things that you believe you need to do. In that thing, with no need to not be doing that thing, and that thing has enough space and enough time allocated to it for you to complete that thing, what are the probabilities of someone experiencing stress? Not zero, because the thing they're working on might be a challenge. Hopefully it is a little bit of a challenge. But what if there's a thing you're doing and you think you should be doing a different thing? That would be stressful. You can't do more than one thing at once, and so the reality is those 10 things are going to take a certain amount of time. The question is, in what order will those things be done? And as a business owner, delegation doesn't necessarily have to look like touching one task. It could look like building a system too. That's where I'm going with this. So we have a support department. We have a service desk that holds service tickets for performing support ticket requests for end users who are requesting that we fix things. We manage, or we support 250 or so end users right now, and we process anywhere between 30 and 150 tickets a week. We have a system defined in that area of the business that asks 2 questions. 1, how many users at this business is this issue impacting, proportionate to the size of the business, on a scale of 1 to 3? And how badly is this impacting their ability to do their job? We answer those 2 questions, and a matrix kicks out a color, and I sort by color, and we start at the top. I can only do 1 ticket at a time. I start with the ticket at the top. That's a perfectly fine way to delegate, isn't it? Now I don't have to go touch every ticket. As long as every ticket is held against those standards, we know what order to do the tickets in. That's a form of delegation too. And maybe you don't have systems, and maybe you don't touch every task, and so maybe you're just crossing your fingers. I don't know. You're somewhere on that spectrum. We've explored a lot of different ideas, right? So here's the thing. We help businesses solve this problem. We solve this problem in a few different ways, but what we find is that this problem is more behavioral and related to effective management than it is about who we're managing exactly, right? And it's mostly the behavior of myself as a leader or manager, because it's the leader or manager, ideally, who is doing the delegating. Anyone doing delegating is a leader or manager, is another way that we could say that. I want to create a bit of context for how delegation needs to be approached behaviorally. I'd like to precede this next section where we're going to talk about how you might consider approaching delegation from a behavioral perspective for you yourself as a business leader, and then how you might allow that to expand out into your team and into your culture. So let's watch that clip.
The takeaway from that is to make a list of what you do every day, to make a look at what really produces, what really has meaning, and you want something that produces the most and then also has the most meaning. So you can't wait to go there and do it. You don't need motivation to do it. If you require motivation to do what you say is important, it's not important. If you require motivation, you're not going to get the most powerful intrinsic drive in your business. And when you can't wait to go to work, people can't wait to get your service. But if you're not inspired to go do it, and you feel bogged down doing things that aren't inspiring to you, you're killing the business because the energy level drops and the thickness of the energy thickens. So that's the take home, is to prioritize what you do and be honest about what's really truly productive and meaningful, and do a metric on it so it's not just hypothetical, not what you hope it will be, but what's really there. And then slowly but surely delegate all lower priority things. For many years now, I basically research, write, travel, teach. Those are the 4 things that I love doing that seem to help me fulfill my mission the most. And everything else is let go. I let go. I don't do anything else. I don't drive. I haven't driven in 27 and a half years. I don't cook. I haven't cooked since I was 24. I delegate pretty well everything. And I can be thankful to the time trap for starting that journey, because I don't think I could do what I love doing, and I don't think anybody can do what they're really inspired to do as long as they're doing lower priority things and doing what they're capable of giving to other people and encouraging the growth of the economy by giving job opportunities to people who would love to do what you would love to delegate.
I want to dive into the crux of what we just covered in that clip. So this segment of the show is directed predominantly at business owners and entrepreneurs, because it all starts with you. When any individual, but most importantly a business owner, fills their day with processes, tasks, activities, responsibilities, accountabilities, or items that they own, resources under management of any kind, that they find computationally in their hierarchy of values and their identity and their ontology as a human being to be less fulfilling than what they know to be a viable alternative in their mind, conscious or unconscious, it doesn't matter. Meaning, if you're doing accounting and you know you love to do marketing, but you repress the marketing and you focus on the accounting, and you know the accounting is worth less than the marketing because the marketing produces hourly and returns more per hour, dollar for dollar, minute for minute of invested time and attention from you, then subconsciously, literally, your brain calculates that as a lowering of your self-worth. It calculates a lowering of your potential. It's an expressed affirmation through your behavior that you are not worth what you believe that you can produce for others. You're not worth acting on those activities and those values, those responsibilities and those accountabilities that you truly find meaning, importance, and value in, okay? I experience this. Like literally, my life is like this. It's a roller coaster of that. Every entrepreneur's life to some degree is a roller coaster of that. There's like this Facebook meme, we could show it. It's like the predicted life of an entrepreneur, right? The predicted life. And the actual experience of entrepreneurship is something more like that. I don't know. Like it's crazy. I want to back this up and start really macro. Let's say you have not made a discipline or a habit or a routine of delegation. Many business owners believe that they want to sell their business. Okay, 20% of small business owners produce businesses that become sellable. So maybe you're in the 20, maybe you're not, but the question is, how do I get into that 20%? And we'll talk about that in a second. But maybe you just simply don't want to do activities you've done in the past and have gained mastery over, but simply haven't found someone else to take ownership or accountability of so that you can focus on something greater. And it's a bit of a chicken and egg dynamic, isn't it? Right? Like as a business owner, you never quite know. Do I make an investment and expect a return, or do I wait for a return that allows me to invest? And I can't tell you the answer to that. That's going to depend on the circumstance, and it's really, really complicated. But what I can tell you is this, that you can externalize and you can create the foundation upon which an exit of any kind can emerge. And so I'm going to define exit. Exit means scale up only into activities you enjoy and love doing. It means scale to a point where you're spending 80% of your time in the market, 20% of your time operating. It means growing the business to the point where you've equipped and hired an operator that's fully in accountability of the operational duties of the company. It means you've grown the company to a point where it's sellable or sold. It means you've grown the company to a point where you have an inheritor or someone that's going to take it over from you. I'm sure there's a few examples that I missed, but really any of those categories are an opportunity for exit. All of them require the exact same thing. The first step is the inventory. The first step of identifying what's important and meaningful to you in your life is an inventory. The first step of determining what it is that you might sell in the marketplace as an entrepreneur is an inventory. What are my skills? What do I have available to me? What do I have to bear in the market? What ideas, what voids do I have witness of that I can convert into opportunity? You have to do some kind of inventory. You can't act on something that you don't believe or have evidence for existing. So let's start there. In your business, you can break any process in the business down into steps. And a business is really only made of a few fundamental ingredients. Any given business is made of essentially processes, roles, policies, KPIs or measurements. You have objects like people, relationships to vendors, prospects, customers, etc. You've only got a few things. As it relates to systemization, processes are the critical component there, because anything that has to happen in the business has to happen. And any activity that follows a series of steps can be programmatized into that series of steps. And you can externalize and identify and document any series of steps. There's just likely some inordinately large number of them in your business. We've been engaged in this particular activity now for 7 years, quite literally, and we've accumulated 800 or 900 different documentation objects. That's a combination of these objects and a few others. But there's still things I literally find every day that haven't been proceduralized. Maybe they became external from me and went to another employee, but that employee hasn't put them on paper. It hasn't made it all the way through. We discover new things that could be delegated every single day. So, step one, what can you do here? You can Inventory your processes. You can do a really simple exercise. You simply pull out a notepad, or you walk around your building and you ask every employee to pull out a piece of paper, and you simply ask everyone in the company to write down each task they do as they do it. That's it. You just ask them to write it down. Oh, I went and got the mail. I answered the phone. I checked my email. I responded to a sales quote. I produced a proposal. I produced a marketing campaign. I executed on a drawing render for a client who's buying a house from us. I built a house. I mean, you did a thing, right? Inventory it. Collect the list. All right, step one, collect a list. Now, let's say you've got that list. You now have a list of all the things you do. Now you've got a runway that you can go one by one and begin to proceduralize them away. You can externalize them. You can begin to write those step-by-step processes. Now, here's the thing. Do you have to do all 700? No. And the point isn't to do 700. The point is, on any given day at any given time, to proceduralize and externalize the next highest priority process that could be delegated to somebody else or could be made more efficient by delegating and checklisting. At any given time, there's a process that is weakest. There's a process that someone does and makes a mistake repeatedly in. There's a process that someone is failing to do completely. There's a process somebody doesn't know exists that's causing a problem with a customer. At any given time, you could take the list of 1 to infinity processes in the business, and your next step is to take that inventory and to prioritize it. Boom. I can write vertically. All right? Prioritize it. Because I don't want you processing processes of low value. You don't have to write the checklist to check the mail. It's probably not worth 10 minutes to write a checklist to check the mail. Might be worth 10 minutes to write the checklist for building a server that takes you 6 hours that a technician could do. Just saying, okay? So, step 1, inventory. Step 2, prioritization. If you document 1 process a day, that's 360 processes a year, you could be caught up to me in 2 years. On average, it's 5 to 30 minutes to write a process. How committed are you to exiting your business? Is it worth 1 process a day? Once you've prioritized them, document them. Write the process. Once it's documented, the world is your oyster, my friend. 3 steps to, I don't know, how many of you have been running business for 10 years wondering, how do I exit? How do I exit? I hope you're not offended when I'm just like, maybe make a list. How you prioritize that list is a different question. How to prioritize is always a bit of a question. It's easy for me to say, prioritize your life. Just go do it. You can do it. See you in a sec. If we did an exercise and we itemized every process, we could ask the following questions. How much dollars does it produce per hour to do that process? How many hours does that process take? And on a scale of 1 to 7, how fulfilled are you in doing it? Do you like it or not, basically? And literally, we answer all these questions, sort by this column and then this column, take the bottom 10% and delegate it. That's a path to increase your value, which means then you can make more money, right? Because to the degree you're doing this bullshit, you're not earning commission dollars, that's for sure. If you're worth an average of 40, but these activities are worth 80, and someone down here is being paid 15, and these are worth 20, by taking these that are worth 20 and putting them here, I've increased this person by an average of 5, right? And I've taken 10% of your revenue, and I've taken it from earning you 20 to 80. That's how we make money in a company. The magic is in the iteration and the habit of delegation, right? So to help you guys make more money, help the company make more money, we need to know what this is, and we need to look at this every 90 days. Cool, right? So I'm not gonna go through that exercise again. You can wait for the live to be done and go back and hit replay. That's a basic exercise. Just a second ago, I talked about how you can do this exercise in your company. You should recruit your team to help you. I mentioned that, right? Have everyone write down their tasks. Put all of them on the table. Make it a team sport, so to speak. Once you've got them, put them in that order. How much money does each task produce? That can be complicated. You're gonna have to be creative. It's not like you're gonna go on Google and have some authority be like, yeah, when you clean the office, it's worth this. You're gonna have to come up with different models for assessing the value of a process. In the case of doing the cleaning, maybe the cost or the production per hour is simply the cost it would take to hire someone to do it. Maybe that's the production value. Maybe that's a way of determining that. You might say, well, it's worth that plus at least double because of the value that I feel in my environment. I'm happier, I'm more productive when it's clean and I'm not tripping over stuff. So maybe you look for hidden rates of return and maybe you build that into your assessment. What's important is that you become clear in your assessment, that you feel that those were logical and sensible decisions in your computation, because essentially, by doing this exercise, we're creating a story for the mind. All we're doing is creating a series of relatively prioritized items that in and of themselves are worth nothing. They're only worth something to you in your life, in your current systems, in your current arrangement, in your current operations, because that's how it is for you today. And relative to all other things in your business, it's worth what it's worth. Okay, so this is entirely you. This is your mind. This is what you've got going on. And the exercise is designed to bring that conscious. I don't know your financial position. I don't know your cash flow. This is not legal or financial advice. If you go make changes in your life because of this, you do so at your own risk. But my recommendation would be that if you don't invest in yourself, nobody will. If you don't invest in yourself, no one will. You must invest in yourself first. And so if you perform your inventory of tasks and you find that the bottom 20% are worth X and the top 20% is worth Y, and you believe you can truly step into the position of Y and produce that return, then it would be clear to you, if you've done it well, that that's the correct next action, and you'll likely just take it. If you complete this exercise and it compels a result and you don't take action, it probably means you don't believe or you don't have faith in how you chose to prioritize your list. And that means you've got guilt or shame or baggage or emotions that are in some way inhibiting you from basically telling the truth. Because the data speaks for itself. If someone totally objective comes into your life, they could evaluate that list. The only thing keeping you from doing it in a way that you believe would be your own beliefs about yourself. And that's just something you're going to have to check in on or comment below and ask some questions and get help from people in your life. You could also ask other people in your life, people who know you, what they know you value that you're avoiding. I mean, your friends all know. Your friends all know you love a thing that you feel guilty about. Just ask them. When you do that, you will grow your business. There is a legit lever. You have X amount of time to do X amount of things, and those things are worth an amount. If you do not hire someone that costs less than what things produce, you're being ignorant or stupid. You must hire people for less than what they produce in return. And at every opportunity, you want to consolidate down from higher producing activities towards lower producing activities. So, do the exercise quarterly. I've been successful in doing the same exercise here at Measurable Genius. Our revenues have grown year over year. Our gross revenues have grown year over year. We're producing more than we produced with fewer people. You'll see, you don't need as many people to do the same amount of output if you allow those people to do higher priority tasks. If you focus on high priority, high value, high return activities, you will stop losing money doing low priority crap. It saves you time, it saves you money, saves you from worrying. And really, it's as simple as doing an inventory. The hardest part about this is you getting over your ego and doing an inventory of tasks and being willing to admit that you're doing shit that costs you money. And be willing to admit that you're paying people more than they're worth to do tasks that are worth less than you're paying them. We're all doing it. Every business owner does, and it's not something you're going to escape. But we each have an accountability to be diligent in the management of our resources. And that means to effectively align and realign our resources with what creates the most value according to our mission. My mission is to help you find your story, acquire new leads, and scale your business. And I hope that today you've had an opportunity to learn something that will incrementally move you forward so that you can make some progress this week. If you've got some questions, now is the time to ask them. Put them in the comments. If there was something in this episode that you found particularly valuable, would you please do me the favor of scrolling to that moment in this episode and making a comment so that I can use that timestamp to produce higher quality content in the future? And if you got questions, topics, comments, things you'd love for us to cover, we'd love to hear from you. And if you think that I can help you in any way in your life, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to book a discovery call and chat about how we can move your life forward and get you unstuck and focused on whatever the next most meaningful, most important, and highest priority action is. It's over. We're done.